We've all read the headlines about business failures, and it would be tempting to think that it's all doom and gloom. However, even if you look at past recessions, most small businesses will survive intact. And one of the reasons is that our entrepreneurial economy is still thriving. This is one of the findings of some research conducted by Visa. I have here Nigel Eaton from Visa. I understand that you've identified these free thinkers.
Yes, I think these are SMEs and people who run the SMEs that are thinking differently. They're having a look at...
Why is that so important?
Well, they're having a look at what they already do, and clearly they're looking ways to improve the situation. So they might be looking into finding new customers, maybe in new sectors that are related to what they already do, perhaps branching into new areas completely, which are less related to what they do, but naturally follow on. And also looking for areas where they can perhaps outsource business to, again, extend the opportunities they have.
So it's basically thinking of all aspects of the business, from what you offer to how you sell it and how you run it, basically.
Absolutely.
So you can cut your costs and think in an innovative way. Now, Dave, you run the Home Business Network, so you're dealing with lots of small businesses. Surely it can be quite difficult if you've had a dream to set up one kind of business to then be quite a free thinker and think of doing something completely different. But presumably you might have to do that in order to survive.
Sure. I mean, you have to be really flexible to survive, and you may have to sort of chop and change your business model every 6 months, for heaven's sake. But actually, home businesses and smaller businesses are amongst the people who are profiting from all of this change. Because with all this outsourcing particular things, and it might be the copywriting, it might be the bookkeeping or whatever, that can be subcontracted to a small company, to a self-employed person, a home worker. And so this sector of the market is actually growing at an enormous rate.
Well, presumably it's because you can be more dynamic. A big business might take months to implement a decision, whereas you can do it almost instantly.
Absolutely. You can make that change overnight. You're not having to report into a committee. You're not having to write a paper first justifying that decision. You can get up in the morning and just do it.
Jonathan, now you run a slightly bigger business, so it must be a bit harder for you to be so much of a free thinker, but you deal in turn with smaller businesses as well. What does free thinking mean to you?
Creative thinking is the business I'm in, so it's something I'm very passionate about. And the problem with businesses is most of them are run by accountants. They're run by logical left-brain people rather than creative right-brain people.
But not smaller businesses. They tend to be much...
They are entrepreneurial, and I think the great hope is that if you do look back at probably the worst time in our sort of recent history was the 1929 crash and the depression of the 30s that followed. And actually, great entrepreneurial businesses were born in those times.
And so, Nigel, just to conclude, I mean, from your research, how many businesses sort of fall into this category? Or do you find that most businesses have an element of free thinking and that's how they managed to be there in the first place?
I think that's absolutely right. It's the free thinking that started them up in this kind of area, and it will be the free thinking that sees them through it. That's the important thing.
So Britain's entrepreneurial economy is still alive and kicking.